Well, this 1969 F-250 followed me home in November of 2023, and the second I got this truck back to Red Poppy Ranch, I was anxiously awaiting the day that I would be able to drive it back down our road and into town. And regardless of the weather, today's that day. Well, the moral of the story is be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. But the second I laid eyes on this 1969 F-250, even though it was two-wheel drive, I knew that I had to take that truck and stuff a mechanical diesel in it and make it roadworthy and dependable enough to where if I wanted to drive it every day, I could. After finding the right truck to start the build around, I then sourced a 1992 F-250 4x4 Ford truck that had a 7.3 IDI and a ZF5 transmission in it. And I chose to use that chassis for the platform build. Because again, that chassis was designed around the 7.3 IDI naturally aspirated diesel and that ZF5 transmission. So rather than trying to piece together the 91 wiring harness and the 69 harness that was in the body, I opted to just get a brand new wiring harness. This is what I would call like a hot rod harness. It's a 21 circuit GM style fuse block, real basic. You can typically pick them up for $200 to $300. This truck doesn't have a whole lot of electronics in it in general, but the last thing that I wanted was to have some spliced together harness that was running everything, I guess, at the end of the day. So I've never had to do this before with any of my projects as far as putting a complete harness in it. I've read the instructions over and over and over again. I need to make a couple of changes with the layout here, but it's pretty straightforward. I'm gonna get the fuse block mounted, start pulling the wires where they need to go, and see if we can't get this truck completely finished up. This is all that's left to do is electrical. I've got some electrical left, and I want to try and get as much as the basic stuff done before I worry about the engine. Front section. After all the work that I would end up doing to this truck, the last thing that I felt like I had to do before I got it on the road was install a brand new wiring harness. If you've been paying attention to the truck build as I've been working through it, then you know that the goal with this truck was to have a completely mechanical standalone diesel that didn't require a whole lot of electronics. But getting this brand new 21 circuit wiring harness installed I felt like was a pretty important piece of the puzzle. And even though I'm a little nervous, I'm looking forward to working this project out.
Well, the first step in the journey has now been accomplished. I made it down the infamous dirt road to our house in two-wheel drive. But going downhill is pretty easy. The next stop is going to be the car wash, then the DMV, and then I'm going to go by the insurance agent and see how much it's really going to cost me to have a decent amount of coverage on this old truck. Well, the radar coming into town said I managed to get my truck up to a whopping 55 miles an hour. Because I chose not to put big wheels and tires on this particular truck like I have done on projects in the past, it didn't take a whole lot to get it cleaned up. But now that I've got it cleaned up, I want to go show it off. When I found this truck, I had to go down south into Utah to get it, and I never bothered to put the title in my name, which really is a bad habit that I have to pay attention to. But either way, I managed to get the title transferred over and get the truck registered for the first time in many, many years. When I walked into the insurance agent's office and she asked me if I needed liability only, she nearly hurt my feelings. I told her I needed at least $10,000 to $15,000 worth of coverage on the truck, and it turns out to get $25,000 worth of coverage costs me about $30 a month. And again, if I'm going to drive this truck all over the place and have the potential to wreck it or for it to get stolen, I want to have some insurance on it. But now it's time to go show the truck to a couple of people that helped me build it.
All right, so last night I was able to get all of the old harness removed. I got the important part of the harness. This new 21 circuit harness is broken up into four categories. It's basically front section, tail section, dash, and steering column. But it's not horribly complicated, but it's time consuming. And like I said, all of the wires are labeled. I just have to figure out where everything's going to go. So right now I'm going to put some loom on the front two sections that are outside, that are in the engine compartment, and one of them has to go down the frame rail to the back of the truck, and then the other one's going to be in that engine bay. And I'm gonna start getting this stuff secured for the final time so we can get this truck finished up.
Part of the reason I love to take on these projects that are a little bit more challenging maybe than just simply fixing up an old 1969 F-250, part of the reason I enjoy them so much is mainly because of how much I learn along the way. And again, I learned so much from this truck that I am eagerly awaiting the next build.
So first part of next week, I've got a friend that's going to come up and help me just kind of go through the important stuff. I'm really not that concerned about taillights, headlights, all that stuff. I can figure that stuff out. The stuff I am concerned about is the gauges, the fuel tank, alternator, all that stuff. That's the important stuff that needs to function right. I'm just kind of slowly working myself through this because I don't want to burn anything up. As long as I use a fusible link, I should be fine, but still, I'm looking forward to next week when I know this will all be buttoned up. This electrical stuff makes my brain hurt, so I'm going to turn the camera off and just get super focused and see if I can't get all this wiring finished up, or at least enough of it finished up. I really wanted to try and start the truck today. That was my goal, but I can see that I'm not going to get there. So rather than forcing this and getting the cart out in front of the horse, as they say, I'm going to take my time into next week. I'm going to have a friend come up and help me, and we're going to go over everything together and just get it finalized. And then I'm hoping I can take this truck out and go for a drive. The weather.
After getting the truck insured and registered and roadworthy, one of the first places I wanted to stop was my buddy Cody's house. Cody has helped me a lot with this truck, and he's just turned out to be a great friend. Well, believe it or not, Cody is about the same age as my oldest daughter, but he knows more about the things that a guy should know about than anybody I know his age. He is my go-to for anything mechanical, but especially diesel stuff. We're going to build a couple more projects together in the future. I had to go by the parts house and show my buddies what I've been working on for the last year and a half, and oh yeah, I haven't quite got the blinkers figured out just yet. But the next stop was to see my oldest son, Brett.
What do you think?
Looks good. I heard it a block away.
No, got registered and yeah, just went over and got insurance. I still.
We can go for a drive.
Yeah, let's go for a rip. No. I want to scratch that new bumper ears.
Oh yeah.
It drives just like an old Ford. Got the turning radius of a semi. I'm gonna have to get a new.
Yeah.
Stop's good though. It's like the brakes are really good.
3 months.
Let's see if you still know how to do it. Must have at least 373s in it, because it's not like running out of gears too fast anyway. I know. I still need to get it aligned. It's a little tiny bit off, but it's real sensitive to that big old wheel. Yeah. But I can get used to it. I like it enough to get used to it. I just don't want to hear. That's the worst thing, when you hear all the engine noise. Okay, go there. See ya.
If you've been following along since the beginning, then you know that I removed the gas tank from inside the cab and installed a 38-gallon tank between the bed rails. And I was very curious to find out how well that tank was going to fill up. And there's a little bit of resistance, but not enough to be concerned about.
I feel like people are done with it though.
I hope so. I'm not. He likes to crawl.
So for the last couple of weeks, whenever my good friend Cody has time to come up and help me work on the bump side, he's been helping me work through the engine harness to make sure that we build this harness in a way where it's actually going to hold up to the demand of the glow plugs. We wired the glow plugs up on the ignition, so instead of pushing a button like a lot of guys do, it's actually just like it would have been from the factory in the 90s, where you cycle the glow plug and the indicator light comes on and then it tells you when to start the truck. We haven't got all the indicator lights figured out just yet, but we do have this truck now running on its own harness. So we still have a few things to work through. We've got the majority of the engine harness finished. We have to make some decisions on these indicator lights, because I want to have an indicator light on the dash for glow plugs, for four-wheel drive, for what else did we decide? Water and fuel was one of the ones I wanted to have. And so I got to pick those out and make some decisions. Cody's waiting on me. But the hard part's done. We've got the factory glow plug harness from the 90s with the glow plug controller tied into this new harness in a way where when I cycle the key, just like it would on a regular 90s Ford truck, the glow plugs get cycled, indicator light comes on, tells you to wait to start, then the light goes off, you start the truck. Thank you, Cody, by the way. I don't know that I would have, I don't think it would have been quite this pretty. Had I done it myself. Cody, we put breakers in line on everything just to make sure we didn't burn anything up with these glow plugs. These glow plugs are notorious for either not working, or guys put manual buttons on them and they burn them out. And I don't want to do that. So again, we tied it into the cycle on the ignition, and all we got to do is pick out some indicator lights and we should be good to go. So I'm getting excited. We're getting close.
In spite of all the bad weather and in spite of all the mud, I managed to get the truck back up to Red Poppy Ranch, really without too many challenges. I really didn't even need four-wheel drive to get back up to our place, but I locked it in just to be safe, and everything worked as it should.
Well, I'm into this truck. Matter of fact, Cedar's into this truck. Cedar said to me a couple of times, she said it to me, that we should keep this truck. But the problem with projects that I do, frankly, any project that I do, I'm always learning things along the way, and I can see points to improve. I want to do this again. I want to find another really clean original paint job, Bumpside, and I'm going to take the drivetrain out of that 12 valve that I bought for my son. My son Rhett, after getting home from basic training and just getting into life, decided that he didn't want to mess around with that old 12 valve anymore. And so I bought it back from him. I think that's the 5th time that we have either bought or sold it to each other. I bought it originally, sold it to him once, then he wrecked it, sold it back to me. I turned it into the plow truck, and then he wanted it back. I sold it back to him, and he just sold it back to me again. I'm taking the drivetrain out of that truck. the 12-valve Cummins and the NV 4500 and the transfer case, and I'm basically just going to set it back in the corner somewhere, and I'm going to start piling up the parts for the next one. I'll probably do basically the same exact thing, although I want to do something different. This is part of what I discovered using this 92 F-250 frame and using the what they call the reverse shackle kit to make the Super Duty axles work. There's another option without having to spend a fortune on a chassis. And that's kind of what I'm doing by getting rid of the original chassis that were under these trucks. They're notoriously, well, they're narrower than the new Ford frames. I think these old bump sides are about 3 inches narrower than the new frames. And so stuffing that big old diesel motor down in there is a pain. I would guess there's probably not more than a dozen of these old bump sides that have either a 6.9 or a 7.3 IDI. There's probably more around with a Cummins in it. I think the Cummins are a little bit easier to get in these trucks, but there's just not a ton of room to work. They have a short nose, and that makes things a little bit technical. But the way this truck turned out, the way it rides down the road, the way the four-wheel drive, I didn't have any issues getting back up the road. It had plenty of power to get up the hill just fine. I'm gonna drive this truck for a while. I'm gonna put my Dodge up for sale real soon as it dries out enough to where I can wash that truck and get it cleaned up a little bit. I'm going to drive this truck. I'm going to start gathering parts for the next build and just keep having fun with it. Every time I do one of these, I learn something and I want to try it again, and that's kind of the moral of the story. I'm going to drive this truck for a while. This summer I'm going to have to haul hay with this thing. It would be nice to keep my Dodge around, but I barely drive that truck as it is. So anyway, I'm excited about the future. I'm going to finish all of the interior, all the dash indicator lights, all of these things that we're working hard to make sure the details are top notch on this truck. My buddy Cody, again, thanks Cody for helping me build this. We're going to build another one. Cody also happens to be a Cummins guy, so we're probably going to turn that motor up a little bit, and the next one will be a lot of fun. But in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy this truck, and I'm going to drive it until somebody offers me more money than I need for the truck. And then I'm going to sell it. I'm going to do it again because this is what I like to do. Cedar said to me, don't you want to keep that truck? And my answer was, yeah, for a minute. And then when the time comes, I'll sell it to somebody and somebody else can enjoy it. So again, a special thanks to Cody for helping me out, and we will see you guys soon.